Good morning, everybody. Welcome to week 4. It's hard to believe that we're already in week 4. After this week, we will be a quarter of the way through the semester. I just can't even believe it's going that fast. Anyway, I hope that this finds you well, and hopefully getting something out of this unit where you're writing on the Common App, and last week was the UC PIQs. This week, you're going to be completing the unit by writing on the LMC Scholarship Foundation responses. Before we do that, though, just one note about last week. So last week, you were working on the rhetorical situation and the PIQs, and the week before was really a focus on rhetorical situation and the Common App. One of the things that I noticed that a large number of you forgot to do or just chose not to do was the reflection piece on the Common App. So in the assignment directions, it kind of gives you the process and the steps to take. And one of the last little items on that list is to include a reflection on the Common App and and there are some prompt questions there for you. A lot of folks just did not do that, which meant that in the Canvas gradebook, you have an X right now that's incomplete. I've left you a message in Canvas comments about what your next steps are and how to rectify that. So again, if you, go into Canvas and take a look at grades, you should have a little blue notification that you've gotten something returned to you, and you'll see my note there. Remember how to access the comments. That was that quiz from the first week of class. And that way, again, you can get that up to complete. A lot of you had some really powerful responses to the Common App, and I was really pleased to see that you were really digging in. I know that many of you are planning on transferring, and so I'm hoping that the UC PIQ assignment from last week was actually something that you could use, right, that you could benefit from. And even if you are not planning on applying to a school that has a Common App, or you're not planning on applying to a UC, I still think these questions are broad enough that you'll be able to kind of use at least maybe even pieces of them for scholarships or for other essays or writing prompts that you might have to write. So I'm hoping that they're beneficial for you in some way. Let's go ahead now and take a look at where we're headed into week 4. So this week, this is our last week in this unit, and our rhetorical focus this week is inductive and deductive reasoning. Inductive and deductive reasoning at first can kind of be a little bit tricky to figure out. So if you're confused at all, I would encourage you to kind of read through this page a couple of different times. What I'm asking you to do first with that information is to kind of read through it and then go back into one of your PIQs from last week and kind of look at what type of reasoning did you use, right? Assuming that you didn't read about inductive or deductive reasoning before, what I want you to do is just kind of look at how you tend to write. Like what do you typically do, right? For me, I know as far as my teaching goes, I am very much an inductive teacher, but I have friends who are very deductive in their teaching. That will make a little bit more sense to you, I think, kind of once you read that page. But that's your first assignment this week, is to kind of go back and look at your own writing and see what you're doing, and then to kind of ask yourself, okay, is this now, as when I'm thinking about myself as a writer, is this how I want to be leading my reader into thinking, right? Is this how I want to be building my case? And so that's what the assignment this week asks you to do. And then we move into the LMC scholarship, right? So the LMC Foundation Scholarship is incredible. I think it's one of the best scholarship opportunities out there, and everybody should apply, because there are scholarships available for students who are graduating, for students who are transferring, for students who are going into a certificate program. If you're getting your AA, if you're continuing into the spring, there are scholarships available for you. And the best part about the LMC scholarship is that there's one application, you apply once, you write your responses to the prompts, you get your letters of recommendation in, or you at least connect to faculty who will write for you, and that's it. The program matches you to everything you're eligible for. That's it. You don't have to do any of that. The program does it for you. So you apply once, you're like, okay, here's my goal, here's where I see myself next semester, and the program matches for you. In doing this assignment over the last 5 years since I teach English 221, I almost always have at least a dozen students getting scholarships from this assignment, and they would not have applied otherwise. So the application doesn't open until I think October, maybe early November, and when that happens, I will for sure let you know. But the joy is you'll already have the writing done, which is awesome. So okay, so that's your goal for this week. So you're going to read about those scholarship responses. You're going to write them and turn them in. All right. So that's kind of that's your actual bigger, that's your final writing assignment in this series, right? Common App, PIQs, scholarship responses. I've read through all of those, but I'm not giving feedback on them yet. The big assignment this week is for you to choose the one that you want feedback on. So again, you've written towards the Common App, PIQs, scholarship. Of those three, what do you want my feedback on? You get to choose which one you're going to turn in for me to read and give feedback on and comments. If it's the Common App, you're just going to submit the one piece. If it's the PIQs, you're going to submit your responses to all of your questions that you answered. Remember, not all 7, but the required plus the other 3, right? If you want me to give feedback on the scholarship responses, then that's fine too. I'll do that one. The goal is, right, is if you are planning, for example, on applying using the Common App, then maybe you want my feedback on that one because you're actually going to use it. If you're planning on transferring to the UCs and you kind of want some feedback on the PIQs, great, then submit that one, and that's the one that I'll give you feedback on. Same thing with the scholarship. If you're like, I'm not going to the UCs, I'm not ready to transfer yet, I know I'm going to be here at LMC in the spring, great, have me give you feedback on the scholarship responses. But whichever one it is, you're going to revise it, right? You're going to revise whichever piece you want me to look at, and you're going to submit it by the end of the week. That's the one that will kind of count, I guess, if you want to think about it in those terms, for this unit as the major piece of writing. That's the one I'll give you feedback on, and that is the one that you will kind of reflect on in this Unit 1 writing reflection, okay? So that's due by the end of the week, as well as the reflection. And the reflection is really kind of asking you to think about what you learned over the last 3 weeks in this unit, right? A lot of focus on rhetoric, but not rhetoric for its own sake, but okay, let's talk about rhetorical situation. All right, and now let's have you really think about that as you are writing in these real world situations. And so the reflection is going to ask you to kind of think about how you've been moving through some of that content over the last 3 weeks. At the very end of this week, I am going to ask you, or I am asking you, to share one of your pieces of writing with the class. So the Common App, one of the questions of the PIQs, one of the scholarship responses, you get to choose which one it is. And you're going to upload it to the discussion board, not as an attachment, just copy and paste it, just the text. And be sure to tell us which one you're sharing, the Common App, or the PIQs, which number, the scholarship response, which question. And you're going to share it on the discussion board. And then next week, Monday, Tuesday into Wednesday, everyone is going to get back onto that same discussion board and give replies. So you'll see that there's a discussion board, but a separate assignment for the replies. So you need to make sure that you're reading through that. And I explained it a little bit, but I just want to articulate it. The reason for that is because I think that there's no other opportunity that we have to really get a sense of how other people are responding to these questions. It's kind of like getting a glimpse at your competition. And it's not like you all are competing, but you don't have an opportunity to get a sense of, okay, my application is one of 300. How are other people writing towards this, right? If you're applying to the scholarship, how many LMC students are applying? How are they responding to these questions? And you can sometimes it can feel like how am I measuring up, or how am I, thinking about my own writing when I don't have a clue of how other people are responding, right? And so this is basically an opportunity just to see how your classmates are responding to similar questions. I think that's really, really beneficial. I think it's valuable. I think it helps us be more human, honestly. I know that sounds kind of cliche, but I do think it helps us see each other more as humans, right? Um, and and I think that it can be really validating to have someone read your piece and say, thank you for sharing that, right? Thank you for saying that those words, or I really think that your writing here is really strong, right? And so for the replies, you'll see that there are some rules that I really want you to consider, and they kind of go back to that charter for compassion that we read the very first week of class. And so this is basically how we're going to be ending this unit on sharing the writing and really just kind of honoring our voices, right? Because a lot of, like I've mentioned, a lot of you I know wait to take English 221, right? And so there's a lot of fear about this class. And so this is also a way to say, hey, you know what? This is not my favorite class. I don't see myself as a writer, or maybe I do see myself as a writer, but I don't always share my writing. This is a way to validate our efforts in the class. And so that's the very last thing you're going to do in this unit. Okay, so as far as office hours, I don't have office hours on Thursday of this week. In fact, actually, Thursday and Friday, I'm going to be pretty out of pocket. My dad is having a quadruple bypass down in Los Angeles, and so I am headed down there Thursday, Friday, and Saturday. So Thursday, Friday, and Saturday, I'm going to be pretty offline. I might try and do some grading while we're waiting in the hospital, but for the most part, I'm not going to be available. I do have office hours Tuesday from 10 to noon, and then I will have the office hours again Wednesday evening 7 to 8, but not on Thursday. So again, if you need me for anything, please don't hesitate to reach out. I will be available via email and checking that. In the meantime, I hope you have a good week. I hope you enjoy this last week of this writing. Next week, we do something entirely different. So if you have questions, let me know. Otherwise, have a great week.